And good evening and welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. My guest this evening is Michelle Seagull, who's the Commissioner for the Connecticut Department of Consumer Protection. And Michelle, welcome. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Well, welcome for the first time. You're a first-time guest with me tonight, so thanks for coming down.
Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been Commissioner.
So I am an attorney by trade, and I have started off at the Department of Consumer Protection almost 8 years ago. I was the Deputy Commissioner for a period of time, and then about 2 years ago I was appointed as Commissioner, and then more recently I was reappointed by Governor Lamont, and I'm really excited to continue working at the department and moving forward.
Cool. You like it?
Yeah, it's a great agency.
And I was going to say, I'm sure that one day is a lot different than the other day. You never know what you're going to walk into.
That is true. We do a lot of things at the department, a lot more I think than people realize. So definitely every day some new interesting issue can come up.
What do you guys do?
So broadly speaking, our job is to make sure there's a fair and well-working marketplace for consumers and businesses to interact. So we do that in a lot of ways. We have a licensing division, and they really make sure that people getting into different occupations and trades or businesses are qualified for the jobs they're doing. So whether it's an electrician or a plumber, architect, engineer, accountants, there's a whole host of businesses that are and individuals that are licensed by us. In addition, we regulate a number of different industries. So we regulate the liquor control industry, and so any place that has a liquor license, whether it's a restaurant or a package store, they're licensed through us. We also have a drug control division, which licenses and regulates all the pharmacies and pharmacists in the state and has oversight over Connecticut's medical marijuana program. And then we regulate legal gaming in the state, so the casino, off-track betting, lottery are all overseen by the department. In addition, we have our Consumer Complaints Center. So consumers will call or email us all the time, and we try to resolve disputes between them and businesses, try to get information out. We do a lot of education and outreach, which is why we love being on shows like this, to get out there, talk to people, let them know what we do. So we do all of these things, and then we have a robust investigations division and legal division that really help us to enforce and regulate in all these different areas. And another one I shouldn't leave out is we regulate foods, and we regulate places like gas stations and others that have weight-served measures.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, we keep busy.
My God, you guys are probably busier than you want to be. And I understand that I'm assuming that you work very closely with the new administration that we have up in Hartford right now.
Yeah, they're terrific. So we've been working closely with them, and they have a lot of great ideas on how to continue making Connecticut a good place to do business.
Definitely. Let's take what we're going to do now is we're just going to take one of the divisions and talk a little bit about it in more detail. Do you have a specific one you'd like to start with, or?
Whatever you'd like.
Let's start with gaming.
Okay. So our gaming division, it was actually part of a merger about 8 years ago, and they became part of the Department of Consumer Protection. They were originally their own agency. They oversee all the lottery agents in the state, so that's a big part of what we do. So we license all of those lottery agents, and we send investigators out to make sure that they're treating people fairly, so that's a big piece of it. We also have some staff at both of the tribal casinos and do some work down there, and we regulate the off-track betting in the state. And we're closely certainly monitoring what's happening with sports betting.
I didn't realize there was still off-track betting in the state of Connecticut.
There is.
Wow, I've been out of the loop for a while. And let's talk about the Drug Enforcement Division.
Okay, so our Drug Control Division is very, very busy. They do a lot of work. First, they oversee just the pharmacies and pharmacists generally, but with the opioid epidemic really throughout the country, but certainly we're facing it in Connecticut. They've been working really hard, both internally and with a lot of our sister agencies, legislature, other nonprofit organizations to fight that. So we oversee the prescription monitoring program in the state, which is a tool that can be used by doctors and pharmacies to help manage and help keep track of all the prescription drugs patients are taking. It's helpful just to prevent generally drug interactions, but also it's a way to notice if a patient is maybe doctor shopping or if there's kind of not good levels of prescribing going on with the patient. You can flag issues early. So they do that. They're also doing a lot of work to encourage people to dispose of medications that they don't need. So you maybe get a prescription for opioids for 2 weeks, and it turns out after 1 week you don't need them anymore. So we really encourage people, empty out your medicine cabinet, and we have drug disposal drop boxes. We've partnered with the local police all throughout the state, and so in most towns, I think we're almost 90 now, there is a drop box where people can empty out their medicine cabinets and get rid of all those medications that they don't need anymore. So they do that, and another big piece of what they do is they oversee the state's medical marijuana program, which has been a great program. It's now helping over 30,000 patients in the state, so it's been growing tremendously. New conditions are being added, a lot more doctors are using it to help their patients, and a lot more patients in the state are benefiting from it.
So let's talk about a little bit more about the medical marijuana program in the state of Connecticut as far as what's going on with it.
Okay. It's a great program. It's been around since about 2012 was when the law was passed, and then it took a couple years to get up and running as businesses were selected and given licenses, and then it took them a little time to get open. So right now we have 4 producers and 9 dispensaries in the state, and the producers are the drug manufacturers. The dispensary facilities are essentially like pharmacies.
Right.
And we've recently issued 9 more licenses, so we're doubling the size of that, which will just make it that much easier for patients to find a dispensary facility near where they are. But one of the great things about Connecticut's program is we really treat medical marijuana like medicine. And so we have our producers are manufacturing products and being regulated similar to the way a drug manufacturer would be for other controlled substances. And in our dispensary facilities, we have licensed pharmacists who are working with patients to give them the right medicine, the right dosage forms, help talk them through maybe drug interactions they're seeing as they use this medicine. So it's been a really good program, and we're really proud of the number of patients it's helping, and it's sort of the managed growth we've had with the program.
Now, as far as the dispensaries, how many dispensaries are there in the state?
So there are 9 dispensary facilities currently, but there will be, hopefully by the summer, I would expect another 9 kind of opening up. So we'll be doubling the number of dispensary facilities, which will just make it that much more convenient for patients.
Now, how do they figure out where the dispensaries are going to go?
So it is a competitive licensing process, and we put out a request for applications, and different applicants, they choose different places, and one of the criteria we look at is it going to help patient access, and we'll also look, they have to have zoning approval, so we'll look at things like that in terms of location. Then we look at a lot of other things too. We'll look at their business plan, we'll look at other impacts we may see on the community, we'll look at what their security plans are. So we look at a lot, and based on that, we select the ones that we think, based on our application, are best for the program.
Exactly, and it seems to me like it's a great program.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, it's one that's been working really well. We're proud of it.
Exactly. And how about now as far, we talked about prescription, we talked about pharmacies a few minutes ago. Now, do you guys also regulate like the online pharmacies, like the online pharmacy companies, if you want to order something through?
We would if they're sending products into Connecticut. That's a much more complicated issue. We mostly do our licensing of actual pharmacists and actual pharmacies in the state of Connecticut, and that's the bigger piece. But certainly online pharmacies are a growing business.
They are. Now let's talk about food safety. Let's talk about food safety and exactly what you guys do.
So we do a number of things there. So we have a bunch of food inspectors, and they do a lot of training, work closely with federal counterparts to get proper training on that. And we license bakeries and other food manufacturing places in the state. And then we send our inspectors out, and they check on food. They'll look for if there's food recall or there's other compliance checks. We'll work with our federal partners to do those sorts of things and make sure whether it's sell-by date or that things are being kept at a proper temperature. That's a really important issue. A kind of interesting thing that division does that a lot of people don't know is if there is a truck spill on the highway, and there's food on it, one of our agents will go out there and make sure that if that food is no longer safe to eat. We make sure it's not going to get loaded back on that truck
and delivered somewhere.
Delivered somewhere where all of a sudden you're now getting maybe fish or something
exactly.
that's been sitting out for 5 or 6 hours because of a road accident.
No.
So that's sort of one of the more interesting things that group does, but that's actually quite important.
I'm going to say I'm sure they've seen their fair share of rollover accidents if something jackknifed and.
Certainly, it happens more frequently than perhaps you would think, where there's some sort of accident, and they know to call us if there was food on that truck, so we can be out there and make sure it's not going to find its way into a store where people are now eating food that's no longer safe.
I was going to say, and probably if there's a rollover, the contents of the truck probably gets destroyed or. That can certainly happen, but not always. Sometimes, sometimes the bigger challenge is it needed to be at a certain temperature. Yeah.
And now that hasn't happened, and so there's a possibility the food's no longer safe.
And that's not a good thing.
Yes.
So what else would you like to tell us about the organization?
So the other kind of big area where we regulate is liquor control, and we do a lot of work there. It's really important to us, in particular, to protect against alcohol being served either to patients who are underage or who are already intoxicated. So that's a really important piece of what we do. A big part of what we like to talk to people about, though, especially when we have this opportunity to talk to a broader audience, is how to protect yourself. We do a lot to regulate the marketplace, and whether it's kind of licensing and testing people before they enter into a business or sending out our inspectors and investigators. But there's a lot that just a consumer can do to protect themselves. And it can be both in terms of avoiding a scam or avoiding giving away personal identifying information, or also just being thoughtful and deciding who you're going to hire perhaps to work on your house, or what business you're going to go to if you're shopping online. So we love talking to people about that, so I'm happy to give some tips if you'd like.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Actually, I was going to say, would you mind sticking around for another segment?
Oh, that would be great.
We'll be right back.
On page 4 that the projections need to be flood next Thursday.
Seriously? Thursday? Can't do that.
This is really inconvenient.
I have yoga that day.
I have no time for this.
So.
I can't do Thursday, but I can do Friday.
Disasters don't plan ahead. You can. Talk to your loved ones about how you're going to be ready in an emergency. Don't wait. Communicate.
Planning the right amount of food is hard. The Guestimator makes it easy. Just tell it who's coming and what's for dinner. Then it tells you how much to make. And yes, it even plans for leftovers. Try it at SaveTheFood.com.
And welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show, sitting here with the Consumer Protection Commissioner, Michelle. Welcome back.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks for sticking around.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right. So we talked about the aspect of what you guys do at the agency. What do you want to? Let's talk about consumer protection as far as protecting yourself as a consumer.
That would be great. So there's, we do a lot, but there's only so much we could do. At the end of the day, there's a lot consumers can be doing to protect themselves.
Okay.
And so we always want to encourage them to do that. And one really big thing is just being able to recognize what are the signs of a scam. And so the storylines often change, and you'll hear about different scams, whether it's the IRS scam or maybe somebody calling and pretending they're from your utility. And there's a variety of different ones. There's the foreign lottery. But the big things to keep in mind is if you're getting a call, it could be a call, it could be an email, it could be somebody knocking on your door. But if in some way somebody you don't know is reaching out to you, that right there, you need to now have your guard up. You didn't initiate the contact. Now, of course, they're going to pretend to be somebody who has a legitimate reason to be calling you. They'll pretend they're from your bank or from your electric company or from the IRS. But you don't know who they are other than taking their word for it.
Exactly.
So when that happens, you really want to immediately be starting to think, is this really who they say they are? And some signs that they're not. One, they're going to try to scare you or get you really excited. Either they're going to convince you something great is going to happen or that something terrible is about to happen, but they're going to get you in sort of an emotional state of mind in that way.
Okay.
And they're going to pressure you to act really quickly. So they may use the scare tactics. They'll claim they're from the IRS and they're coming to arrest you. Or they're from your utility company and they're going to be shutting off your power in 2 hours if you don't pay your bill.
Right.
Or they've kidnapped your relative and you need to pay a ransom or pay bail because the person's in jail.
Exactly.
So in some way, or on the flip side, they may tell you you've won this amazing foreign lottery or there's this amazing business deal and you could be a millionaire and think of all the wonderful things you could do.
Yeah, okay.
But there's always going to be some hook like that, and then they're going to want money from you or they're going to want personal identifying information.
Mm-hmm.
They're pushing you for money. They're going to want you to send it in a way where you can't ever get it back. They'll maybe ask you to buy a prepaid card and read the number off the back or to wire them money. Could be somebody showing up to your door and pressuring you to give them cash. So those are going to be really right there, telltale signs. Somebody you don't know has contacted you. They're kind of really pressuring you to act with a sense of urgency, and now they're asking for personal identifying information or they're asking you for money to be sent in a way where you can't ever get it back. So what we really want people to do, no matter what the underlying story is, when you're starting to find yourself in that situation, give yourself a few minutes to calm down and think through the situation.
Right.
If they're claiming they're from your bank or your utility company, hang up on the person and then look up the real number for that company. Find your bank statement or your bill. What you don't want to do is call the number they've given you, because
No.
of course that's part of the scam, right? So find the real number and then call and say, hey, am I that far behind on my bill that you're going to shut off my power? Or did you bank really need me to verify my bank account number? And almost always the answer is going to be no, and you will have saved yourself a lot of problems. So always stop, verify the information you're being told, and then reach out directly to the company and further confirm that it's nothing, and let them know that somebody's using their name to try to cheat people.
Exactly. I actually got an email from my bank the other day about a scam. It's like there's somebody calling from the bank. There's somebody calling from so-and-so bank. It's a scam. Do not, if they email you, do not click on it. Do not open it, even though it looks legit from us, from our bank, from the corporation. It's not us.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. And you bring up a great point. Sometimes it'll come in the form of an email, and maybe they're not asking you for anything. It doesn't seem. They're just sort of saying, hey, we need to verify some information, click on this link.
Yeah, no.
You need to be really, really cautious. Again, don't click on anything. Don't do anything like that.
No.
Call up your bank if you have any thoughts that maybe it's real. Verify it that way. Don't just click on a link that just appeared in your inbox, no matter how real it looks. It's just incredibly easy for people to go to a company's website, copy the look and feel of what they have there, and then steal it as their own. People will take advantage even of common misspellings, and they may buy a domain name that's very close to a real business,
right,
and try to trick you that way and take advantage of whatever % of people make a typo.
Exactly.
So so that's really good advice. You don't want to click on links or do anything. And sometimes they'll text you with a similar thing.
Yeah,
and
no.
Again, be very
Delete them.
cautious. Don't do that. Verify for yourself before you do anything.
Exactly. Delete every. If you get a junk email or junk text message, just delete it. Don't even open it. Don't even look at it.
Yeah. So those are really big things to do. So that you're not proactively giving your money, giving your information to someone. But you also want to be cautious and make sure it wasn't somehow stolen. Sometimes you could do everything right, but there's a data breach and it's at a company that you visit a lot. Mm-hmm. So we encourage people, you can get your credit report free. There's 3 credit reporting agencies. You can go there once a year to each one. Take a look at your credit report every few months and make sure, okay, is there anything on there that doesn't look familiar? Did somebody open an account in my name, but it wasn't me? So there's a way to look for those issues and flag them early. Always look at your bank statements, look at your credit card statements for just similar reasons. You want to catch a problem early on so that you can cut it off. Sometimes if they steal your credit card, they make a few really small purchases initially just to test the card, make sure it works, and if those go through, then they may come back and make larger purchases. And unfortunately, because it's become so common, that the businesses themselves are getting pretty good at detecting when a charge seems fraudulent. So they may reach out to you as well to sort of confirm, oh, did you buy this soda in Florida? And if the answer is no, then they'll be sending you, know that they need to cancel your card and get you a new one.
Yeah.
So.
I was going to say, my local bank not long ago I was traveling for something, and they were like, we saw a purchase on your transaction come up from Caribou Coffee in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Was that you? I'm like, as a matter of fact, it was. Like, okay, we're like, we just want to make sure that, because it's something that, when they looked at your account, it's something that's never been tracked before, but it's like, yeah, that's me. I was out visiting family and was in the airport and wanted a cup of coffee before I hopped on a plane and came home.
Yeah, right. So sometimes it legitimately is you, but
exactly.
For sure it's
But
good that they're
once in a while,
seeing, right, okay, here's somebody who typically doesn't buy something in Minneapolis. We better make sure this is legitimate. So that happens, and the businesses are getting pretty good at catching these things early as well. So those are some really big things that consumers can do to prevent themselves from these total scams or people really just trying to steal their money and their information. The other big thing consumers can do is just really do some research and homework when you are going out and you want to, let's say, hire a home improvement contractor, or you want to hire someone to do some other work in your house. First think through what it is that you want to have done, and then call some friends or neighbors and ask them, what contractors have you used from this work? And you want to find somebody who's had a project that's similar in scope. So if you're trying to get your kitchen renovated, maybe the guy who did your neighbor's deck isn't going to necessarily be the best contractor for you. They just may not have the same skill set. So look for people who've done a project somewhat similar, find out what contractors they've used. When you're going to hire someone, ask them for references, and then call those people, learn about their experience. Then you do a Google search or check Better Business Bureau or others you can call the Department of Consumer Protection, see what complaints there are. Just really do some homework so that when you hire someone to be doing work, you can feel comfortable that they have the skills to do it and that they're trustworthy. So that's a really big thing. And similar if you're shopping, especially as more and more shopping is happening online.
Oh, yeah.
Do your research on companies, especially if it's one that maybe you haven't heard of. When it's a brick and mortar store, you have a little bit more confidence. You know where they are. You know how to find them if you're not happy with their product. But if you purchase online, it can be a lot harder, especially if it's not a company you're familiar with. So do some research. Put in the company name and the word scam or complaints and see what comes up.
See what populates. I'm sure things pop up if you put in the word scam or you put in.
Yeah, you'd be surprised what's out there. So it's always good, for 15, 20 minutes of some online research, you could save yourself an enormous amount of headache.
Wow, I thought about that, but I didn't even know. Yeah, you just type in the word scam and type in the company, and everything should populate that way.
You'll certainly get a lot, or look up reviews or complaints and see what's out there. Generally, if a business has been cheating a lot of people, there's going to be some sort of footprint online. So it's a good way to do. And again, just talking to people who've used the company and learn about their experience, especially if you're hiring someone local.
Now, as far as information, as far as websites, what's yours and what types of information can people find on your website?
So, great question. So you can visit us at it's ct.gov/DCP, as in Department of Consumer Protection.
Okay.
And once you get to our website, we've got a host of information. So we've got information on all of the different divisions that I was talking about, a bit about what they do. You can have an opportunity if you need a license to get your license with us. Or more importantly, if you're a consumer out there, before you hire someone, make sure they have the right credentials. So some, like a home improvement contractor, needs to be registered. Other people, such as electricians or plumbers, are licensed with us. And what a license means is that they have done a lot of training and have passed a test in order to be in the field that they're in. A registration really just means that they've paid a fee, they've given us their information. Now, they're bound by a number of consumer protection rules, and by having that registration with us, we have a way to help enforce that and to hold them accountable. But
Okay.
there's definitely, it's good knowing the difference between a registration and a license. But before you hire someone to do some work for you, make sure if they need to be registered or licensed, that they in fact have an active license with us. And you can go right onto our website, look up a license, and confirm that it's still active. We also have a lot of our outreach and education materials that can all be found through our website. So if whether you're thinking of taking out a loan, or there's certain fraud and you're kind of curious, is this a scam? We have a lot of information on some of the more common ones out there, a lot of tips on how people can protect themselves.
You guys have a lot of information on your site.
Yeah, we try to keep it really up to date, and we do a lot of things, and so we do have a lot on our website.
We had a little bit more time left. What else would you like to tell us?
Well, I think the other, I guess, part of our agency that we haven't touched on as much is we do have a weights and measures division. We actually have a metrologist that's part of the department, and kind of is out there at gas stations or other places where having really good precision, heating oil dealers, things like that. That's all regulated by us as well. So those are other good things. A few other things I guess to talk about is we actually just had Consumer Protection Week. That was last week, and we were really encouraging people to make a budget for themselves. And that's another big thing consumers can do to protect themselves. And what you want to do, and towards the beginning of the year, around tax season, as you're getting all your financial stuff in order anyways, is think through what are your big expenses, in particular like charitable giving that you may want to do, because that's unfortunately an area where you come across fraud because most people are very good and generous and want to help others, and unfortunately there are some bad people out there who will take advantage of that. But if you plan ahead and you sort of decide, hey, these are the causes I care about, and you can do some research online again, see which organizations do a good job in helping with that cause, and then you can make your plans to give directly to them, and then you're less tempted when somebody calls you up because of whatever maybe disaster or tragedy has occurred and is in the news, and all of a sudden everybody's calling you asking for money. You may want to give money to support that cause, but you'll have your budget and you can make an informed decision. Don't want to feel pressured to give to the first person who calls you up. Think through, all right, what is the cause I care about, or what's the disaster I want to help with, and who are the organizations that are helping people who are impacted, and do a little research, and then make sure that your charitable giving is really going to the best organization to help out with whatever it is you want to be doing.
Michelle, I want to thank you for coming down, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Oh, thank you very much.
All right.
My pleasure.
On behalf of Michelle, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks. Good night. We'll see you next time.